Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. I'd like to welcome the University of Texas team. Congrats on last night's win and advancing to the second round.
Thank you.
We have Coach Vic Schaefer and seniors Joanne Allen-Taylor and Audrey Warren here. We will let Coach start us off with an opening statement, and then we'll go to questions for the student athletes.
All right, good afternoon, y'all. Happy for our players. To be able to win in the NCAA tournament is really hard. Everybody's really good. And, I thought while it wasn't our best night, I thought Fairfield had a lot to do with that. And, again, congratulations to them on a great season. As I told our players, we beat a champion. They won their regular season conference championship as well as their tournament. Anytime you beat a champion, you've done something. And even though it might not have been as clean as we'd like, it's still a win in the NCAA tournament, and you just try to win in advance. And so we're here today advancing and have to play a tremendous Utah team. Obviously they played extremely well last night. They have been playing really well down the stretch. Coach Roberts and her staff have done a great job. And, it's going to be a real big challenge for us. I think they present a lot of issues for you. Defensively, they challenge you every possession, and they'll go deep into the shot clock challenging you. So it's going to take a real focus on our part for the full 30 seconds to defend them and defend all the things they like to do. They've got tremendous players over there that are playing extremely well at a high level. Great point guard play, which is you got to have that to win this time of year. You better have that, and they've certainly got that. And so we'll have to play. We'll have to be really good on that end to start with. And I think that's where it starts with for Texas is on the defensive end. I think if we're playing well on that end, our confidence really flows into our offense, and we feel better about things on that end. So we'll be challenged at every position, and you'll be challenged in every set because they're gonna really try to put some pressure on you at different spots on the floor. But happy for our kids, happy for our players, to be able to get through last night, and I thought we had a nice atmosphere in the Irwin Center for our game last night. So.
Thanks, Coach Schaefer. We'll go ahead and start questions for Audrey and Joe. Raise your hand if you have a question and identify yourself and then ask your question. We'll start up front with Jim Vertuno from the Associated Press.
For the players, obviously the 15 three-pointers from Utah stands out. So what's the key to stopping that? What defensively, you go into a game like this, what's the priority when you're facing a team that can just light it up from outside like that?
We've seen teams that were capable of all shooting the ball before, so I think going back to those games and seeing what worked, we'll all need to handle our matchup one-on-one so that we don't have to come off and rotate or have to help each other too much where we get off the shooters and they're able to kick it out to them.
Yeah, we just have to be really tough on the ball, extremely aggressive on ball to me.
Again, raise your hand if you have a question. Danielle Lerner from the Houston Chronicle.
Kind of as a follow-up to that, you guys have been pretty good at defending the three all season. When you look back at the games where you were able to successfully do that, are there any in particular that stand out that you think can kind of serve as the template that you want to do tomorrow?
Can you repeat it one more time? I don't think I heard what you were asking.
Basically, are there any games this season that you feel like your three-point defense was really like on point, and you want to use that as an example for what you need to do tomorrow?
I think the closest resemblance would probably be in Iowa State, just players that can shoot it 1 through 5.
Just being extremely aggressive on ball like we've been all year. I think that kind of sets the tone for us defensively.
Back left, go ahead and identify yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, Jay Drew from the Deseret News in Salt Lake City, Utah. Audrey, a lot has been made about equality of tournaments, trying to improve the women's tournament to be on equal standing as the men's. One of the differences is they play first-round games at neutral sites as opposed to, obviously, the reason we're here right now. Do you like it the way it is, or would you prefer the format to be more like the men's?
I like having the advantage of a home court. Typically there's more fans from our area and that are rooting for us, so that's a good environment to have. Just having, getting to play on your home court is a huge advantage itself, and then considering we don't have to travel anywhere, we get to stay close. We're at our homes throughout the day, and so it's an advantage. I like the way it is. I liked it last year when it was all on a neutral site in San Antonio. I mean, I'm fine either way. I'm just happy we all get to play basketball.
Again, if you have any questions in the virtual audience, use your raised hand function and we'll go to you. But Danny Davis from the Austin American-Statesman here locally.
Joe, when you went back and looked at the film or thinking back to last night, what did you like and what did you dislike about how y'all performed yesterday?
I think there were spurts of just seeing like the freshmen really do well, like, and come into their own. I think that was a positive for us, like them stepping up late in the season, and like that's just growth for how they're gonna, or what type of players they're gonna become throughout their college careers. Like Tasha and Amo, really having big minutes for us, and then I can only speak on myself personally about like what I disliked. I mean, I just felt like I wasn't comfortable defensively, and I kind of gave up too many easy buckets, like especially like not turning and running and staying in front of the ball and kind of getting in foul trouble a little bit early. So that was just my little niche that I had to look back and see what I had to be better at personally, so I can carry that into the next game.
Since last year you guys were 6 going into this round, and you had UCLA, you had Maryland. Does it help to know what the mentality of an underdog is, so you kind of know what Utah is coming out there playing, or is that overblown and this is basketball and y'all are just playing?
I honestly think we're just playing. I mean, Utah's a really good team, so like it's hard to say underdog this, underdog that, because like I mean they're a 7 seed, but man, I mean they hung 90 on Arkansas last night. Like that's tough to do, So yeah, I think we're just all just playing. We're just playing, yeah.
Any further questions for the student athletes? Up front on
I
the
have one more, then I'll hand it over. Regardless, unless y'all decide to come back next year, this is kind of it for you at the Irwin Center, or I guess this is it for you at the Irwin Center regardless. What are your thoughts about playing one more time here in this arena?
Yeah, there's a lot of history in this arena, and I think Joe and I are, both really excited to have gotten to play the 4 years here, and we want to end it right at the Irwin Center with a win and going on to the next round.
Got one last one for the student athletes. Jim Vertuno, the Associated Press.
The Fairfield coach last night really complimented you guys in a way, saying that if you're going to play Texas, you better have just design 2 or 3 different ways to get the ball up the court, 2 or 3 different ways just to get the ball in bounds. And that seems to speak to just how intense you guys are on defense. Is that where it all starts for you, just from 94 feet all the way?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's who we are as our defense, and that's where it's going to start is in the ball. I mean, you can't get the ball on offense without getting a stop on defense, and I think pressuring people for 94 feet and making them turn it over multiple times or just throwing it out of bounds or anything really gives us a a momentum goer on offense.
Yeah, and for me personally, like, it's something that you can, like, necessarily always control. You can always control your effort defensively. You might not always be able to control, like, balls going into the hoop every single game, but, like, it just sets the tone for you, and it's something you can bring to the table every single game. So, yeah.
You set, Jim? Great. Thank you to the student athletes. Joanne, Audrey, appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow. Now we'll take some questions for Coach Schaefer. Again, raise your hand if you have a question, and those of you in the virtual audience, if you have a question, use the raised hand function. We'll go ahead and start with Danielle Lerner from the Houston Chronicle.
Vic, when you look at the turnovers that Utah had last night, I think it was like 19 or something like that. Was there a common denominator that you saw, and I guess lessons from anything Arkansas did to force those turnovers that you guys can do?
Well, I think, during the course of a ball game, as I watched the film, many films last night and into this morning, I think there's things that you pick up offensively and defensively that might be similar to what you do, and you try to, show your kids, okay, here's something here, here's something we might be able to do here. But I just think that we're way different than most people, for as far as how we play, and I think that we've got to be us. At the same time, we got to clean some stuff up. The only thing I actually didn't think we were near as sharp and played as hard as we have been playing, which I knew it was coming. I told y'all, I knew it was coming last night, coming off of the Big 12 tournament championship and having the young, inexperienced team that I have and some of the immaturity. I saw it all coming all week, and there's nothing you can do about it sometimes. Just getting through the night, again, giving Fairfield tons of credit, but I think we've got to be really disciplined tomorrow night. They're smart, they're heady, they got the same film I got. They're going to try to put us in some spots where we're stressed, and we're going to have to handle them a whole lot better. And so we'll see if we can get some things ironed out today in practice. But for Arkansas, I think they're a little bit different than us as far as defensively, and so I think you got to go through a ton of film to get to something that's similar to us. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of Pac-12 film that looks like Texas defensively. So I think you really got to do some research.
Again, raise your hand if you have a question. Back left.
Vic, Oregon coach Kelly Graves the other day on a podcast said that to reach true equality with the men's tournament, that games should be at neutral sites even from the get-go. What's your reaction to that? Obviously, you're playing at home, so I don't expect that you would agree with him this year, but just generally, do you think that's the way the tournament ought to go?
Well, I used to be that person, but here's the thing: we can do that, and there might be this many people in the stands if we go to a neutral site. That's why they've done it. They haven't done it just to go, hey, let's give somebody an advantage. There's some adults that got in a room and said, what's more important for our kids? What's more important for the student athletes? And I used to be that person that go, hey, that's not fair for 64 teams to have to go to 16 home team sites. But the other side of that is, well, everybody's got the same opportunity to be one of those 16 teams, right? It is. So I think what you then have with the NCAA is, okay, what's a great experience for our student athletes? Playing in an empty arena or playing in that environment last night? And so I think, I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm telling you that's what the people are trying to figure out. Everybody has their opinion, right? But that's where we're at. Look, in the old league I was in, it was 3 hours from South Carolina when we played in our conference tournament. Is that real fair? Huh? But that town, that community does a great job in supporting that event, and there's people at the games, which in turn create a great environment for our kids to experience, if that makes sense. So it's whatever you think's most important, and apparently the bosses think that what's more important is that we have bigger crowds, that's better for the games, and creates an atmosphere that our student athletes can really have a good experience in. So, and again, everybody's got the same opportunity, you know, to be one of those top 16 seeds. So,
In the middle, Danny Davis.
Vic, were you concerned by the amount of threes, or I guess success from behind the arc that Iowa State had in the tournament, or was that just one of those days where they just made the extra passes and just had a good day?
no, I was very concerned, Danny. I mean, you know, we've been pretty good out there, but we weren't good that day. And I'm sure if you're, you know, Utah, you're probably going to that film and feeling pretty good about yourself, you know. And for us, I've shown the same film, and you know, it's concerning. So, you know, we've been pretty solid out there all year. That day, that game wasn't very good, and so we've got to get better. You know, we got to do better. I got to find a way to get that fixed today, and then tomorrow and shoot around, because it's going to be a problem. You know, you're going to lose the horse game. You know, we stand out there and try to play horse with them, we're going to lose. So we're going to have to find a way to fix that, and you fix it by handling the ball. If you can guard the ball, you don't have to rotate, you don't have to come off people. You got a whole lot better chance. And you know, that's the thing I think that you're impressed with Utah. The thing about film, y'all, is film doesn't show quickness or speed. Like you when you're watching game film and scouting film, it's why in the old days, y'all, they used to let us have one in-person scouting a year. You could go in-person scout somebody one time a year. And when I'd go do that, I wasn't writing down plays. You can get that off film. I'm writing down quickness and speed. And that's the thing when you're sitting there last night, that's the thing that really jumped out at me about Utah. They're quick, they're athletic, and their speed. And so, you know, I think that's the thing that, you know, we've got to be really on point with tomorrow night.
Kind of going off what you just said, as far as like the in-person scouting, yesterday you were sitting next to your assistants for that game. Was that just because you hadn't seen Utah? Because I know, you know, Deanna, April, Calamity were kind of out there by themselves at the Big 12 tournament, but you joined them yesterday. Was that because you just wanted to see a firsthand account of two teams you really hadn't seen?
No, typically I do that, Danny, quite frankly, in the NCAA tournament. I do it for sure. And even in the conference tournaments, I'm typically out there scouting. The time schedule and the time frame in Kansas City made it a little bit hard for me. And plus, I'd already seen those teams we were fixing to play twice, and I'd seen them recently. So I felt good about what I was looking at and who I was dealing with. But, you know, typically, NCAA tournament, I'm always out there.
On your left, Coach Daniel, go ahead.
When it comes to looking at film, like, how do you balance wanting to just look at mistakes that you want to correct versus showing them, okay, this is some stuff that we did well? Or does it depend on the game or the opponent you're going to face next?
Yeah, I think in such a quick turnaround, it's really hard to cover everything. You know, I think you have to figure out as a coach what's more important. And that's what we did this morning. We watched what was more important to the head coach, and that's what we did. So, you know, I think my job is to be a realist. And at the same time, you know, you got to present to them some answers and make them understand, okay, here's what we got to do. Here's some things that we can do that can be effective. Here's some mistakes we typically don't make. We've been really solid on, for whatever reason, we made them, so we got to make sure we clean that up.
Any additional questions? In the middle, Danny.
We've obviously talked a lot about Rory this season and her development. I'm kind of wondering, obviously the talent is there and the skills are there, but how much has being tutored by Deanna helped her? How much has your coach and what you've taught her kind of helped her with this, I guess, transition she's made this season?
Yeah, I think she listens well. I think she's very coachable. And I think that, having someone like Deanna around that's been there, that's played the game, and obviously has instant credibility, really benefits her. And then, she knows I've had some really good point guards in my career, so, and a lot of them, similar in a lot of ways. And, so she's very coachable and wants to get better. And again, you're talking about a kid that's the ultimate competitor. I mean, she's such a competitive kid, and just extremely, like that motor is just running a lot. And, I get used to the fifth gear, and I notice the fourth gear. And fourth gear is pretty good for most people, but you know me, I'm always wanting fifth gear, and I notice the difference. And so, she understands that, and I think that's the challenge with any freshman. That, they go through these anywhere. It's, this isn't personal. We're just trying to help them become the best they can be. It's our job to push them to places and past limits that they never really knew were there. And I think Aaliyah said it in the newspaper, Danny, the other day, she's learning to be uncomfortable, and that's what's helping her become good. And that's the challenge, is learning to deal with being uncomfortable. A lot of kids don't want to be uncomfortable, and they run. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like it here because I'm uncomfortable, okay? And so they take their ball and go somewhere else. And that's the challenge for kids today, is don't run. You're uncomfortable because it's, you're learning, you're growing, you're becoming a better player, you're going against better talent against you. And so that uncomfortability is what's going to allow you to become the best you can be. And I think, for somebody like Rory's got the talent. What separates her is her effort. You've heard me say that. There's not a lot of players in the country, forget freshmen, there's not a lot of players in the country that play as hard as she does on both ends of the floor and impact the game. Like, she's in everybody's scouting report on defense. Forget the fact that she's our second leading scorer or whatever she is, or her assist-to-turnover ratio. She's in their scouting report on, you better take care of the ball because you're going to get to know her for 2 hours on whatever night you're playing her, because she's going to be that close to you. And, it's the old Hoosiers, what kind of chewing gum was she chewing? Most nights she can tell you. And that's just the kind of player she is. And those players, y'all, are getting fewer and farther between. Everybody wants to score, but not many people want to do what she does, and she embraces it. She loves it. It's why she's at Texas. She's told you that. And so that's what makes that kid so unique and so special. So.
Go ahead, Daniel. Had a follow-up?
Yeah, who are some of those former point guards who you see as being similar to Rory?
Say it again.
Who are some of those former point guards you've had who you see as being
Well,
similar to Rory?
Jazz on my staff, Jazz's motor was very similar. Speed, up and down the floor. Jazz saw the floor so well. She knew Blair was going to be standing in that left corner, and if she could get it down the floor fast enough, she knew she could throw a slice pass across court, and Blair would be standing there, and there's a good chance she's going to bury a three. Morgan Williams, same thing. She was that tough, physical, took over 100 charges in her career, tough kid that, had played with no fear. Sydney Carter was on our national championship team, just maybe one of the top 3 toughest kids I've ever coached at 5'6", stand in front of a freight train, to take a charge, but smart and heady. So, I could go on, but, Rory, I think where excites me about Rory is where she is as a freshman. She's probably further ahead than everybody I just mentioned. And again, all those kids I just mentioned had the motor. They had the motor. And again, Rory's skill set's probably a little better right now in this time in her career. But now the challenge for her is to get better even with her skill set, right? And don't lose the motor. Keep that motor, but now we got to keep working on the skill set and make it, and she will. I mean, you saw her make a bunch of threes the other night in the Big 12 championship game. She hasn't done that all year, but she's been working on it. It's not just that something that happens. It's something that she's worked on and she's developing some confidence in. So special. I mean, she is very special.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All
We'll see
right.
you tomorrow night.
Thank you. Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.
getting ready to start with the Utah press conference, so anybody who's planning to join us, come on over. And those of you in the virtual audience, remember to put your raised hand function up if you have a question. All right, well, let's welcome the Utah Utes. Congrats on yesterday's win and advancing to the second round of the tournament. We have Coach Lynn Roberts. What order are we in here? Senior Drew Gilton, Junior Brenna Maxwell, and sophomore Kennedy McQueen. Congratulations, and we'll go ahead and start with Coach with an opening statement, then we'll go to questions for the student athletes.
Again, thank you guys for being here and covering our tournament and our program. We appreciate it. We are feeling good about our game last night. I thought we played well. We certainly didn't play perfectly, but we competed for 40 minutes. We played tough, and we followed the game plan. Arkansas is a very good team, and you know, I thought we just kind of controlled it, but a lot of respect for them. And like I said last night, you know, congrats to them on a great season. And now we face Texas, and we're looking forward to the challenge. And you know, like we said, I think, I don't even know what today is, but the day before we played Arkansas, you know, we're not just happy to be here. We're here to compete. And same thing, we're not just happy that we won the first game. We're going to celebrate that, and I'm really proud of our team, but we're not just happy to be here, and we want to compete. So looking forward to the matchup. I know how tough they are, so we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go ahead and start with questions for Drew, Brenna, and Kennedy. You can raise your hand if you have a question. We'll get a mic to you. Start over on the left with Danielle Lerner from the Houston Chronicle.
For all the players, Texas is obviously really, really physical. They can overwhelm teams with their physicality. And I know you guys have played some teams similar to that in the Pac-12, but what can you take from similar games you may have had against teams like Stanford and things like that and bring to tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we've been saying this the whole time, is that the Pac-12 as a conference prepares us so well for the tournament, and that's what a lot of teams do to us, is pressure us and try to get us off our track. And I think just the opponents we've played in the Pac-12 have just prepared us, and I think it's just a mental game at that point. We know what makes us successful, and we know what to do, so we just have to carry that on to tomorrow. And just the basics and the fundamentals are what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, it's nothing we haven't seen before. We're kind of used to that in the Pac-12. Every team's really physical, and you know, applies that pressure. So we had a really good practice today, and we're really excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, just echo what they said. And practice, a big focus was on our free ups, just being strong, stuff like that. So yeah, Pac-12 prepared us really well for this game.
Again, raise your hand if you have a question. We'll get a mic to you. In the middle, Danny Davis from the Austin American Statesman.
Drew, knowing this Texas team is going to want to force turnovers and, you know, kind of bite the head off the snake, I guess, so to say, what do you need to do, you know, kind of leading this offense to limit turnovers and, you know, limit that part of the Texas defense?
Yeah, I think it's just a mindset. That's Texas's strong suit, is the pressure and kind of getting into your head and full court pressure. So we've been watching film on it, and I think it's just a mentality that us point guards are going to have. And kind of like we've said before, there's been games like Arizona, they play the same type of defense. So I think we're just going to have to play under control, and just being a point guard and being a leader, I'm just going to have to come out strong and make that a focus for myself, and then hopefully the team will follow. So yeah, I think that's just a theme, like the Pac-12 has prepared us. So just having that mentality and just carrying it out into tomorrow.
For any of the players, obviously, you know, maybe hard to nitpick about 92 points yesterday, but what did y'all like about the way you played in the opener, and what are some of the things you feel you need to get better at?
Yeah, I think Kennedy had an okay shooting night. I think our team, you know, they shot the ball all right. Yeah, our offense was working really well against Arkansas. Arkansas is a great team, and our team came out, you know, ready to roll, and it was really cool to see us piece all 4 quarters together. Obviously, we can improve on rebounding and turnovers, but other than that, I'm just really proud of how our team came out and played. No fear, that's for sure.
I think if you watch us play this season, that really isn't any different than the way we've been playing. Maybe like Brenna said, putting the 4 quarters together, but the style of what we played like yesterday is what we've been doing all season, sharing the ball and shooting shots and getting out in transition. So I don't think there'll be any difference tomorrow.
I agree. I think we started the game really well, and then Arkansas went on a lot of runs, and we were able to answer. We never let them back within 10, so we always kept that lead and moved the ball super well. It was a fun environment, and that's how we've played all year.
On your left, Jay Drew, Desert News.
For any of the players, is there a Pac-12 team or maybe any other team you played this year that you would kind of, after watching film of Texas, remind you of their style?
I would say a mix between Colorado and Arizona. They both play really physical styles and pressure defense. So, yeah, we've played Colorado twice, Arizona once. So I think that's been huge prep for us being able to play Texas. But like we've said all year, Texas is a great team, but they have to beat us too. I think we bring a lot to the table.
Then a question for Drew, since you've been around more. Would you rather play a game like this in front of a packed house, even if it's 99% Texas fans, or in front of a almost empty arena that's totally neutral?
Yeah, I think just being here and being able to play in any game is great. We want to play in these big games, but I don't think it's the focus of our team. Our focus is just to show up, learn the scout, and just play Utah basketball. And we have some mighty fans too, so our focus really isn't on the audience or the fans or anything like that. It's just when we step on the court, we're going to play together, we're going to play as a team, and the outcome will take care of itself.
Any additional questions for the student athletes? Well, thanks, Drew, Brenna,
Thank you.
Kennedy.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate
guys.
it. We'll go ahead and start questions for Coach Roberts. Raise your hand if you have a question, and those of you in the virtual audience, put your raised hand function up, and we'll go to you if you have a question. We'll start up front on the left with Jim Vertuno from the Associated Press.
Coach, the Fairfield coach last night was talking about if you're going to play Texas, you better have several ways designed just to get the ball up the court. You better have 2 or 3 players who are capable of handling the pressure from them. Would you agree with that? And how do you counter what they do on defense?
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I think you can't be predictable in what you're doing. It can't be the same thing over and over. You know, they will adapt and make it hard. I don't think, we're not going to be unprepared. Like, we will have several things in, and that's what we worked on in practice a little bit today. Yeah, and we do play 4 perimeter players out, so any one of them I have confidence in bringing it up. So it's going to have to be this. Texas is not a team you beat one-on-one. You kind of have to do it by committee, and the same thing with beating their pressure. It can't be just one person trying to put a Superman cape on and try to do it. But I think you saw with our team yesterday, our first 5 field goals were assisted of the game. So our first 5 field goals of the game were assisted, and they were made by 5 different players. Like, that speaks to our balance and our ability that it doesn't have to be, that the pressure's not all on Drew or Brenna or Kennedy or Gianna or whoever. Everyone's capable. But I know it's easy to sit up here and say that. I know we have our hands full, but I believe in our preparation and plan.
Raise your hand if you have a question. Go ahead, Jay.
Lynn, Kelly Graves the other day said that the women's tournament has reached the point where, like the men's tournament, maybe first and second round games ought to be played at neutral sites. Did you hear those comments? And you didn't.
I didn't, but I've talked about it with some coaches before. Do you want my opinion?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting at.
All right. Yeah, I think, the history of why and I don't know when it started, the host sites, 10 years ago? I don't know. But it was, there wasn't people going to those games at neutral sites to see a 116 or a, 314 or whatever. But I think we've seen on the women's side, the parity has gotten so much better. And I think, you know, I do think people will come out to watch it. I know there's been talk of super regionals, which, you know, I don't know enough about that in terms of the logistics as to, but maybe that's a good idea. Pick cities that we know are women's basketball fans and, you know, send some teams there. But I do kind of feel like, you know, I hope soon we kind of graduate from this. And I always have kind of believed that women's basketball is always a few years behind the men's. And, you know, I think we're catching up to, you're seeing attendance numbers go up, TV money go up. People care. And I was impressed with Texas' crowd last night for their first round game. That was really great. So, you know, people care, and I think we're getting close, I hope, to going to more neutral sites or super regional or something so that it's not home games for those top 4 seeds. But no one asked me, other than you, what I think.
On your left, Coach Danielle.
We've talked a lot about Texas's defense and your offense, but what do you think you guys need to do defensively tomorrow to really limit them?
Well, I mean, it's not a secret that they're more athletic than we are. They're bigger than us inside. So we're going to have to be smart with how we negate that. You know, we're not going to defend like they do. But we can play defense. I mean, we can be disruptive. It just will be in a different way.
Additional questions? Stay on the left. Jim?
Obviously, you watched the game last night. What were your impressions of Moore? Leah Moore, her 18 and 10 last night, and what do you do inside to counter that?
Well, again, it's just like beating their pressure, beating anything that maybe you're outmatched. It has to be by committee, and it's got to be. But you know, it's not a simple answer. They've got a lot of weapons, right? They were clearly bigger than Fairfield at every, you know, and more athletic at every position, and that's tough. I thought Fairfield did a nice job. They battled. I was really impressed with their fight, and they never quit. But yeah, I mean, at every position we could, you know, nitpick either way, right? Like, it's not. I don't think it's not a clean matchup for either team, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you know, we're going to have to do our best job and be really tough and be really strong on the boards. Be really tough on the boards. That's going to be, and I'm sure for them, that's a key for them too. We did a nice job rebounding yesterday.
On your right, Coach, Danny Davis, Austin American Statesman.
Lynn, I'm sure a couple local fans, or more than a couple, will remember Isabel and the contribution she had a few years ago. First, how did she kind of get to Utah, and what has she added to this team, I guess, these past 2 seasons?
Yeah, well, last year she was hurt. She had the foot injuries that she kind of had a little bit here too. But Izzy's just a great player, great kid, comes from, you know, she's from Australia. We actually recruited her. We were aware of her in high school out of Australia, but she went to Texas. So then when we knew she was leaving, then we just got right back in the mix and recruited her quickly. And she's been awesome. And unfortunately for her, she's had just injury stuff. Her last year she redshirted because of her feet, and then this year she was doing great. And then she got COVID and was out for a long time, just kind of the long hauler stuff, and just kind of unlucky. Then she sprained her ankle. It's just like, but you know, I thought she was great yesterday. She tacked and she's aggressive, and I think she's having fun playing here in Austin. But just an awesome kid. I'm so lucky to coach her.
And it certainly didn't seem like any of the players you brought up here today are happy to be here. Is that kind of the mentality throughout this entire team, that you all want more than just a trip to Austin?
Yeah, I mean, and what do we have to be nervous about? I mean, this is basketball, and this is what it's about. And this team has done a great job of just kind of being in the moment. And you know, because we're not led by one or two people heavily, I think it's a beautiful thing that they're not feeling a lot of pressure, and they're young, and so this is what it's all about, and I want them to enjoy it. But I also, they're all competitive. They might look like, choir kids, but they're competitive as heck, and they want to win. So, yeah, I like their mentality. I don't feel any sort of anxiousness or pressure, which is fun.
Any additional questions? Well, thank you, Coach. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Appreciate y'all.
Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.